default device every time. All right, guys. Sorry. Yeah. Welcome, as I was saying, to the next episode of our Falcons training camp recap series. I'm here with my co-host Adnan Ikic. He is at Say Which Way on the Twitters. Adnan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well, happy Friday, everyone. Happy training camp day, day number two. It's nice. It's nice that we've gotten to this point because now there's something to talk about seemingly every day, and this will technically be the last weekend without football until February
Yeah,
because the Hall of Fame game is next week.
that's right. That's right. So it's exciting stuff. Welcome to everyone. I know this is like an earlier show than most of our viewers are used to. So I know a lot of people will be watching this, when they get home and things like that. But we wanted to make sure we got the news out to you guys as soon as possible. So we're gonna go over all of the topics from today's training camp practices. Nothing earth shattering, but there are some interesting things to touch on that we're going to get to. And we're going to start off with some more positive injury news because I like to start things off on a positive note. So we have tight end Lee Smith, who had started off training camp on the reserve COVID-19 list. Thankfully, that was a very brief stay on that list because Lee Smith was back on the practice field today practicing with his fellow tight ends. He was working out there with Kyle Pitts and Hayden Hurst with the ones, so that's good to see. Adnan, how are you feeling about having Lee Smith back on the field so quickly?
I mean, yay, good. You never like having anyone out. And, Lee Smith is someone who is new to the team. It's a new playbook for everyone. So the playbook kind of doesn't really fall into place. So that it makes it so important for all of these guys to go through as much of training camp as possible, just because there is a new coaching staff. But with Lee Smith especially, he has never really been around these guys, and he's someone who will have a role on the team this year, as evidenced by the fact that they traded a very late seventh round draft pick for him. So, he's the best blocking tight end on the roster, so he'll definitely have a role. So, it's always good to have someone back earlier than expected. And here's to hoping that Dante Fowler and everyone else who's on that COVID list comes back as soon as possible.
Yeah, we're just definitely hoping that everyone can stay healthy. The COVID list could mean that you were just a close contact, and with Lee Smith coming back so quickly, I guess I kind of suspect that was the case. But we're not going to speculate on any of that stuff. But just happy to have him back, and as by far the most established and successful blocker on the roster, it'll be nice to have him out there so he can get acclimated with everybody else that's out there learning this new offense. So the more reps for everyone, the better there. All right, next topic that we heard on today. We saw the returner battle actually start to take shape, with the Falcons doing some special teams reps as expected. Cordarrelle Patterson going to factor in heavily there. But it was really down to just two other guys, according to the Athletic's Tori McElhaney. And it was Chris Rowland, who was brought in to compete for the return job last year. We were all pretty surprised that he didn't end up winning it over Brandon Powell. And sixth round rookie corner Avery Williams, who's also a very talented returner in his own right. This is definitely going to be an exciting battle to watch. Cordarrelle Patterson, obviously the heavy favorite to win the kick return job, but notably does not return kicks. So if it is down
Re-
to just
Return. You said he's the favorite to win the kick return, but doesn't return
Oh,
kicks.
well,
Yeah,
he doesn't return kicks if they're
yeah,
punted. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's important clarification there,
Good,
Adnan.
good
Thank you.
save, good
Yeah,
save.
good
Yeah.
save, good save. But yeah, so if it's between, it seems like I appreciate this if they know basically who they want. They're just going to give these guys a lot of reps. But between Chris Rowland and Avery Williams at this point, who do you like for that punt return job?
It's actually super exciting, and I'll be happy with either of them. I think right now Chris Rowland might have a slight edge, just by the fact that this is his second year in the NFL, and the team kind of knows about him. There's there's some, excuse me, on he was last year. I'm absolutely baffled that Chris Rowland didn't get an opportunity
Right.
above Brandon Powell, just because Brandon Powell was not a very exciting returner, much to the chagrin of his brother, who I think came after you a couple of
It was either
times
his
for.
brother or like his cousin or his father or something. I
Yeah,
never
yeah,
got clarification on that, but
yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. We are very big supporters of everyone watching the show. So thank you to everyone watching the show, even if
yes.
you are related to the players and you want to come after us for
Yeah.
criticizing the players. That's it's completely fine.
Hmm.
But Chris Rowland last year was one of the saves on the practice squad week in and week out. It was him and Kurt Benkert who were just kept getting saved by those, special practice squad rules. You're allowed two players whom other teams can't poach away. And Chris Rowland, I think right now has a slight edge just because he's not a brand new rookie coming into the NFL. He knows kind of how to conduct himself a bit when it comes to these practices, having been in the NFL
Yep.
for a season already. But that really doesn't mean anything. That's just in the early part. But the return game, you can tell that Arthur Smith and the front office this year really value it a lot more than the previous regime
Right.
because
Right.
previously the return game was just all right. Hold on to the ball. Don't make any mistakes. But at the same time, we're not really going to use the return game to our benefit, and we're not going to really have a high ceiling with the return game. Whether that was Brandon Powell, whether that was Eric Weems years ago. And with Eric Weems, I understood it because you had Kyle Shanahan's offense, which could just go 99 yards on a whim, just
Yeah.
at any
Yeah.
point. But last year, you had Dirk Cutter's offense that couldn't do that. So it really was baffling that the team wasn't using every weapon in its arsenal to get as much yardage as possible just because you saw how the team bogged down
Hmm.
offensively, especially in the red zone. So it's a really nice change of pace that now we'll have an exciting returner and someone who can actually flip the field a little bit whenever he's back there.
Yeah, yeah, it seems to be a real emphasis of this team. And look, like they knew with limited resources, with limited draft picks, they can't necessarily turn all three phases of the team into elite in one offseason. But one that's actually pretty affordable and easier to do is special teams. You don't necessarily have to go spend an arm and a leg to upgrade your special teams and make that a real strength of the team. And I'm glad, honestly, under new special teams coordinator Marquise Williams, that they are like, look, we're going to be the best return team. We're going to try to make our special teams elite. We're going to go get the best kick returner in the game, in Cordero Patterson in here to, get things done and hopefully upgrade that part of the team. And then we're also going to, go out and obviously keep around a guy like Chris Rowland, who is a very good returner in his own right, but also not, stand pat there, bringing competition in Avery Williams, who was an excellent college returner as well. Avery Williams also has a lot of kick return experience. So it seems like that sort of emphasis on, look, we don't have a lot of money, but what can we make elite in one off season without very much money? And it's special teams. And I think they tried to do that. And, that could be the difference. Like this team lost 8 games by 1 score last year. And you have a couple of returns go a little bit differently. You get 10 yards closer to the opponent's end zone. Maybe some of those punts become field goals. Maybe some of those field goals become touchdowns if you're just a little bit closer. Those 5-10 yards, they add up over the course of a season. So excited to see what happens there. I think between Roland, Cordell Patterson, and Avery Williams, we're going to have a very, very dangerous return game for the first time since Devin Hester was here, which has been quite a while at this point. So, yeah, wild. I also can't believe that Brandon Powell. Brandon Powell was like a solid receiver, but as a returner, man, I don't know what they saw from him there. I just don't get it. So, a little odd. But we'll just move past that. Brandon Powell's not here anymore. We don't need to slander this man's career any more than we already have. Just in case his brother father, somebody related to him is watching the show still. All right, let's move on to the defensive side of the ball, where we are starting to get a closer look at how that defense is, the defensive line in particular, is going to deploy. Obviously, Dante Fowler still on the COVID list. He's not out there practicing, so we saw what the defensive line could look like if he's not out there. One of the main developments today was that John Kaminsky, former fourth-round pick, he was getting a lot of work with the first team, and not just on the interior where he's officially listed, but as a edge defender as well, something that I've been kind of calling for this offseason. Adnan, what do you think about John Kaminsky getting some reps with the first team and actually getting to play a little bit on the edge?
I mean, I like it. And this is a real opportunity whenever a surefire starter, and Dante Fowler is going to be a surefire starter just by default this season, is out and cannot get those reps. The silver lining is you have these young guys who are next in line, who are hungry for that position, getting that opportunity to get those first team reps. And there are going to be some valuable reps. And especially for John Kaminsky, you're talking about someone who has a chance to really impress the new coaching staff. You know, none of these guys, well, none except for like 7 or 8 of these guys were drafted by this regime on this roster. So, you know, there is no sentimental connection the way there was between John Kaminsky and Dan Quinn, for example. So, you know, it's incredibly important to take advantage of that opportunity and to have that opportunity in the first place. And I like the fact that John Kaminsky is proving himself to be a versatile piece, someone who can play on the inside and someone who can play out on the edge. And, you know, that's something that is going to help get him some reps, and that's something that's going to help him stick in the NFL because, you know, as we all know, in today's NFL, unless you're just a superstar specialist at what you do, you need to be able to play in more than just one specific position.
Right.
And, you know, that's something that John Kaminsky, it would be huge if John Kaminsky can prove to be a very solid starter for this team this season. And if some of those guys who are day 3 draft picks the past few years can, you know, develop and step into those starting roles, because this defense just doesn't have very many strong bodies and, you know, strong players, at least looking at it right now on day 2 of training camp. There's not too many stars up and down this defense.
Yeah.
And it would be really, really great, and it would be a boon if John Kaminsky can prove to be, you know, not a star, but a solid starter on this team. So, you know, I'm glad he's getting that opportunity, and I'm rooting for him to be successful and to make the most of it.
Yeah. I mean, John Kaminsky is a guy that I really liked coming out. I believe the only day 3 pick I've ever correctly predicted for the Falcons. So, you know, that he has to, you know, pan out to support my honor there. But I do really like the fact that they're giving him some more opportunities. Just a ridiculous athlete. And like, I get why they were moving him more to the interior, because if you look at his relative athletic score on the interior, it's even more ridiculous. His, you know, score on the outside was almost equally ridiculous. But I mean, we're talking like a 99th percentile athlete as an interior rusher and like a 95th percentile athlete as an exterior rusher. This man was running downfield on special teams coverage plays at 285 pounds and like outrunning linebackers. I mean, he is a ridiculous athlete, you know, coming from, I think it was even maybe Division III Charleston to the NFL was always going to be a big step up for him. But he, I think, has been arguably the most impactful rotational defensive lineman the Falcons have had since he was drafted, particularly last year. So excited to see what happens to him this year if he can take on a larger, more prominent role going forward. Let me get to a donation real quick from Koshida with the $3. Thank you, brother, for that support. We do really appreciate that, guys. Thank you. He says, always enjoy the Falcons content you guys put out, especially for me as someone from Germany. Nice to have so much content about my favorite football team. Also, did you see that bum Matt Ryan tossing interception? I'm sure Adnan did, because he is, you know, the resident Matt Ryan hater. So Adnan, what is your take on Matt Ryan's, you know, very bad interception?
Well, you know, first of all, a big shout out to Germany.
Yes.
You know, right now it's 7 p.m. where you are, so a lot earlier than the regular Wednesday live shows, which over there would be, I want to say, what, 2 a.m.
Yeah, so
Uh, yeah, big shout out. My sister actually just moved there about a month ago. She got married and moved down there. So, big pro Germany. We're a very pro Germany show over here.
yes,
But
yes, definitely.
yeah, and shout out to not just that, but everyone watching internationally. I see DSTE
Hmm.
says he's from Glasgow. Big thank you to everyone watching overseas, and Falcoholic Live is a very international program, as we can tell. But as for Matt Ryan, it's no surprise someone who got intercepted by his offensive coordinator back in 2016. But no, that I saw that play. It looked like a really, really great undercut by Deion Jones.
Yeah,
The pass was a little behind Mike Davis, but we'll work out the kinks
yeah,
with that as we get into the year.
yes. It's,
But
it's day 2 of training camp, guys. Okay, let's not panic, too much. But
yeah, I mean, we can always cut him, and we can always cut Matt Ryan and go. I can't even make the Matt Schaub joke right now.
no,
What would it be? Felipe Franks. It, Felipe Franks would be
hell
the
yeah,
guy
dude.
right now.
He's ready. Yeah, ready to
Yeah,
take that next step.
yeah, that's a Dave Choate hype right there. But
Yep.
yeah, no, it was a great play by Deion Jones, and I think that can segue us into our next topic, talking about
Hmm.
how great Deion Jones and Richie Grant and some of these defenders look today in day 2 of training camp.
Yeah, yeah. Two of the biggest plays that we saw today. One of them obviously was caught on video by the Falcons media staff. Excellent play. I think, to be fair, Mike Davis would have caught it if Deion Jones wasn't in great coverage. So it wasn't a great throw, obviously, but Mike Davis, great receiving running back, would have caught that ball. If not for Deion Jones being right there. So it's very good coverage play, despite the fact that, yes, it was not a perfect throw. We didn't see footage of the Richie Grant pass breakup / forced fumble, depending on who you asked. Yeah, that was another impressive play. Richie Grant came in, dislodged the ball from undrafted tight end Ryan Becker in another portion of practice. So, the defense coming to play, getting these turnovers, these pass breakups, the coverage in particular, I guess, is looking good to start camp. What are your thoughts on, we know Deion's great in coverage. What are your thoughts on the rookie Richie Grant standing out early in the process here?
It's great to see because Richie Grant is going to have to be a day 1 starter this year.
Yeah.
And that's what you expect from a high second rounder. Well, high to mid second round pick
Yeah.
this season. So, we came into the offseason really, really lacking safeties. I think, what was it, Jalen Hawkins
Yeah.
was the only safety on the roster coming into the offseason. And, we did kind of restock. The cupboard isn't bare with that. We've restocked a little bit throughout the offseason. But the main piece of that was Richie Grant. And, we have high hopes for Richie Grant, and he's someone that we all talked up on the Falcoholic Live for months and months before leading up to the draft. He's a name that we constantly brought up as as a potential day 2 pick for the Falcons, and I was really happy when we made that selection. And he's someone who, not just this season, but in the future, you are now building this foundation because a great defense, it's not going to be built overnight. It's not going to be
Right.
built over the course of one offseason, especially with how shattered this defense was coming into this offseason. But that's someone whom you hope you have the foundational pieces in the secondary to build a really strong secondary now between him and AJ Terrell, going into Terrell's second season and Richie Grant's rookie season. And if those guys can kind of stand out, then you have those pieces now to start building, possibly even from the back end to the front, which is what we saw with some of the great defenses in history, like the Seattle Seahawks and the Legion of Boom. Not saying that they will be the Legion of Boom, but
You heard it here first.
yeah, I guarantee you that the Atlanta Falcons will be better than the 2013 Seahawks defense. Now, But yeah, no, it's great to see that he has that feel. We all knew that he had that feel for forcing turnovers, and he has an instinct toward the ball. And he forced a number of fumbles with the former national champion UCF Knights this
Yes.
past season.
Charge on.
So
Yep.
yeah, yeah, that joke isn't as good when Eric's not on.
Yeah, that's true.
But but yeah, it definitely it's good that we have some playmakers, especially in the secondary, because that's something that this team was lacking last season. That's something that the team has been lacking the past few years. And it'll go a long way to know that we added a true playmaker, and that's what Richie Grant is
Mhm.
in the secondary. So, hopefully he and Terrell and some of these other defensive pieces, at least this year and moving forward, the future defensive pieces that we get will be those playmakers who can force those turnovers because if this offense is as good as we hope it'll be, the defense doesn't have to be in the teens, as we talked about yesterday. The
Yeah.
defense
Yeah.
does not have to be top half, and I don't think it will be a top half defense in the NFL this year. I mean, it could if everything breaks right, but
Maybe.
I wouldn't count on it. But if
Definitely.
the defense can force a few turnovers here and there, force two interceptions and a fumble, then that will go a long way in helping the Falcons, possibly secure a playoff spot and a double-digit win season this year.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think we're probably hoping best case scenario for about league average on defense. But as we talked about yesterday, that is good enough for them to be a playoff contender. You don't necessarily have to have an elite defense in today's NFL, particularly if the offense is as good as it could be. So we will obviously be watching that very closely to see how that goes. But yeah, I mean, Gary Stafford mentions in the chat, the defense might surprise because unproven players don't necessarily mean bad. It's refreshing to have actual coaches, and I think that is a big deal. The coaching change on defense, just seeing it go from Dan Quinn to Raheem Morris, we saw it get a lot better without, any personnel changes there. So, I think that is something to watch. Yes, the Falcons are loaded with unproven players. But if some of those players turn out to be really good or just a surprise in a positive way, that's a nice way to help your defense overperform what you were expecting. That's certainly something that is possible. And just to give people a quick update, I know lots of folks are interested in this info, so I'll just say it real quick before we move on to the next topic. In terms of where people are lining up on the defensive line, we mentioned John Kaminsky lining up both on the outside and inside. Marlon Davidson was getting a lot of work with the first team on the inside and basically only on the inside. We saw Brandon Copeland work with the edge rushers yesterday. We also saw with Dante Fowler out, Stephen Means and Jacob Tuioti-Mariner getting a lot of work as the first
That's
team
former
defensive ends.
former NFL Defensive Player of the Week, Jacob
Yes,
Tuioti-Mariner.
JTM. Yes. So keep an eye on Means and Tuioti-Mariner as the two guys that are probably the first two guys up in case of an injury to Fowler.
And also good for Stephen Means. I mean, he was a mid-season addition due to a bunch of injuries a few years ago, and he's really, he's stuck around. Survived a coaching regime change, and I don't want to say he survived it yet. We'll see what happens after final cuts, but he's someone that he's done the job. He's been a steady presence at the defensive end, a good depth piece, and it's always nice to see guys like that stick around in the NFL.
Yeah, yeah, it's nice to have that depth there. It's like I think we have the depth to be good. We just don't necessarily have the starters. That seems to be the issue right now. But we'll see how it shakes out over the rest of camp. See if they do end up adding anyone else to that group. The next topic for us to cover. Let's see, what is it? Yes, wide receiver. We all know that there's going to be a lot of back and forth, a lot of competition for those third, fourth, and fifth, maybe sixth wide receiver spots on the roster. But it seems like early on, obviously, Calvin Ridley and Russell Gage are the first two guys, and that's unlikely to change. But the Olamide Zaccheaus factoring in heavily seems to have an early edge. But the other guy might surprise folks, and that guy is Christian Blake, who Torrey McElhaney said has been quite impressive over the first 2 days of practice and seems to be absolutely in the running for one of those final receiver spots right now. What do you think, Adnan, about obviously Zacchaeus factoring in there, that's not super unexpected, but also Christian Blake being one of the prominent guys in that competition right now.
Or as he was called by one of those Fox broadcasters, Christian Bale, over and over again. I think in that 49ers game a couple of years ago. Uh, I'm not terribly surprised by it at all, just because Blake and Zacchaeus, they've been here for
Yeah,
the past
yeah,
couple of years. They were both on the roster. They've both uh, made the 53-man roster, and they were a part of it in the late seasons. Matt Ryan has chemistry with each of them. So right now, I'm not. It's still day two of training camp, and continuity goes a long way in deciding who the day one guys are going to be.
mm,
So, right now, I think that they're going to be the number three, number four wide receivers on this team. I mean, possibly. The wide receiver competition is always maybe one of the most exciting competitions on this team throughout the preseason, and I don't think that's going to change at all this year. Ridley's locked in as the number one guy. Russell Gage probably the number two guy. I'd be confident in saying he's going to be locked into that. Then you have a guy like Frank Darby, whom the team drafted this year.
yeah.
He's going to get his opportunity, and right now I wouldn't read too much into Blake and Zacchaeus getting most of the reps, just because they're the guys who Matt Ryan already has an established chemistry with.
Right.
But, Darby will definitely get his opportunity in the preseason.
Yeah, yeah, Darby, Tajay Sharp, and a whole smattering of UDFA's and other guys. So we're definitely looking forward to seeing how that plays out. But yeah, Blake having an early edge, Zacchaeus also not surprising, and that will be a battle we continue to monitor over the coming days. All right, final topic for today's show. Hayden Hurst had a press conference today where he revealed that he was asked by new tight ends coach Justin Peel to slim down to 250, which he said was a drop in weight of about 18 pounds from his playing weight of 268 last year. And Hurst also wanted to emphasize that he doesn't view himself competing with Pitts for attention, but instead said it's not Hurst versus Pitts, it's Hurst and Pitts, sort of emphasizing the fact that we're going to see a lot of 12, aka two tight end sets in this new offense. Adnan, what do you think about Hurst slimming down and him sort of emphasizing the fact that we are likely to see some packages with both him and Kyle Pitts on the field?
I think Falcoholic Matt Chambers tweeted it out that Hayden Hurst isn't even going to pretend to be blocking anyone with this slim down, and I can definitely see it. We know that Arthur Smith runs a lot of 12 personnel, a lot of two tight end sets. That was his bread and butter last year at Tennessee. He had Jonnu Smith and Anthony Firkser, whom he actually turned into a fantasy relevant tight end for a few weeks. So Hayden Hurst is someone who does have a lot of receiving talent. Don't forget that this is a guy who was a former first round pick, not too long ago, and he's someone whom the Falcons traded a second rounder for. And to this day, I'm still saying, looking back, it probably wasn't the best trade that the team made.
Yeah.
But he's still a very, very solid backup tight end. He's probably one of the better backup tight ends in the NFL. And the team is going to deploy him and Kyle Pitts out there in wide receiver roles, and I can definitely see that this year, without too many proven commodities at wide receiver behind Calvin Ridley. I can definitely see a scenario where both Hurst and Pitts are lined up possibly in the slot. They're not lined up right on the line of scrimmage, and maybe that's a way that where Arthur Smith will kind of manufacture some more weapons for Matt Ryan and manufacture a couple of mismatches against slower linebackers, forcing the defensive coordinator to kind of, take stock and kind of pick his poison a little bit and what he's going to do. Even without Julio Jones there, the Falcons still have these weapons and have these guys who can really get down the field despite having such big bodies, the way that Hurst and Pitts do. And, Hurst kind of slimming down, maybe maybe even being a bit faster as a result,
Hmm.
will kind of add some emphasis to that. And, that tells me even more so that Arthur Smith will probably be trying something like that.
Yeah, yeah. We saw it with the Titans. They deployed 12 personnel as much or more than any other team in the NFL last year in terms of percentage of plays. Also used a lot of 13, aka 3 tight end sets. And I think we're going to see both of those things in abundance with the Falcons in 2021, where, I think we're going to see Hayden Hurst emphasized more as a receiver this year. The slim down to 250 doesn't make him a small tight end by any means, but dropping 18 pounds, that is a significant amount of weight in terms of freeing you up to be a better athlete, to focus on your separation and receiving. So I'm looking forward to that, to seeing Hurst maybe a little bit slimmer, a little bit faster as the primary receiving threat opposite Kyle Pitts. And with Lee Smith in tow, they don't necessarily need Hurst to be that impact blocker anymore, because Lee Smith, I mean, he's one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL, has been for a long time, and he's a savvy veteran who also could catch a pass or two. He doesn't catch a lot of passes, but he does. Notably,
Watch out for those red zone packages.
Yeah, notably, I think half of his catches last year were for touchdowns. So, he's someone who has good hands, just doesn't necessarily separate, but is big and obviously a good blocker. So I think we'll see all of these guys working together and have a very good tight end rotation this year. So excited to see how that gets deployed, how that all works out. I just want to give a shout out to some folks in the chat. Falcons for Life, G, Big Low Country Sports, Don Emery. Thank all of you guys for coming in and showing the love today and every day. I mean, we see you guys all the time, but we just appreciate everyone for tuning in for all this stuff. But yeah, before we sign off, guys, do want to remind folks to like and subscribe if you haven't done that already. Those metrics do help the channel grow, help other folks find the show on YouTube. If you guys have any questions you want us to answer on these shows, they're going to kind of pop up as soon as practice is over, so look for them to be more in this 1 o'clock hour going forward, particularly if we're able to record at the branch. If not, it might be a little bit delayed. Definitely check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/Falcoholic Live, to unlock those exclusive perks to help support the show on a monthly basis if that's what you're interested in doing. And definitely check out the Discord as well for the Falcons chat every day. We have an active group of people that are chatting it up in there basically all the time. It's definitely going to pick up now that we have real football to talk about. So if you're interested in that, look at that as well. Otherwise, guys, I want to thank my co-host Adnan Ikic. He's at Say Which Way for jumping on with me again on an impromptu call here. So Adnan, thank you, and also anything else you'd like to let the people know about before we sign off.
Just letting them know that you and I will both be at training camp this weekend.
Yes.
So, if you guys are down there, don't hesitate to come say hi. We'd both love to meet some of the viewers, and some of you guys. I'm sure a lot of you guys will also be down there at training camp.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, shout out to Grant Watson. Yeah, how about those Hawks?
Yeah.
A great draft last night. So it's a good time to be it's a great time to be a Hawks fan, and hopefully it'll be a good time to be a Falcons fan this year. Hopefully much better than the past 3 years.
God, I hope so, man. I hope so. But yes, as Adnan said,
we'll be covering the team either way, but it's a lot more fun when they're winning.
It is. It's nice when we don't have to start draft takes in week 2, according to Eric. So usually, if we could make it to December before draft takes, that would be great.
It's been getting earlier and earlier. Like a couple years ago, it was November. Last year, it was October. We were already looking at mock drafts.
Yep. Yeah, that's just. I need a little bit more time to get my draft takes together. So yeah, please Falcons, help us out there. But yeah, as Adnan said, we'll both be there on Saturday. I will be there on Sunday, hoping to be there for the closed practice on Monday. That's actually looking good according to, team sources for me. So hoping to be at that closed practice as well. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, also looking like I will be in the press tent for those 2 days. So very excited to bring you guys some hands-on coverage. The team has been working hard. The team staff has been working hard to try to get us in there as much as possible. They do have to kind of portion out the media passes for the practices because of the NFL's COVID protocol. So we appreciate everyone that works for the team communication staff and everything for trying their best to get us in there. We do appreciate the work they're putting in. I know it's a lot to manage all these people trying to get into practice. So thank you guys for all that you do. Thank you guys for all tuning in. Like I said, we will be back tomorrow to recap Saturday's practice. Don't know for sure if it'll be immediately following or if it'll take a little time because I don't know what exactly the internet situation is going to be at the branch and if it's going to be possible to record there or not. If not, it'll probably be a little later in the afternoon, but we will have a show for you at some point. And look out for Odd 9 and 9. I believe Everett will also be there. So keep an eye on that. I know I'll be wearing my Falcoholic shirt, so I'll be easy to spot. So, guys, again, thank you. Just excited to get out there on the field at the training camp, get to the branch tomorrow, and happy to have actual football to talk about. Happy to have great fans like you guys to talk about it with. So until tomorrow, guys, I'm Kevin Knight at Falcoholic. Kevin on Twitter. He's Adnan Ikic at Say Which Way. Have a great night. We'll talk to you tomorrow with some more Falcons training camp updates. Have a good one, folks.